You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Debbie Royce, CCDC's Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this afternoon's meeting. Before we formally begin, I would ask that everyone please mute your line unless you're speaking. We'll begin today by taking a roll call of the directors to ensure we have a quorum present on the line. Please be so kind as to say present when we call your name. Chairman Silverman.
Present.
Michael Carey.
Present.
Vincent Ionelli.
Present.
Jeff Little.
Present.
And Lee Perlman.
Present.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. And Chairman Silverman, you can begin.
Thank you, Debbie. Good afternoon. I will now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York Convention Center Development Corporation for Wednesday, October 20, 2021. Before we get started, I will ask that everyone please mute their phones unless you are ready to speak. Also, for the record, I will ask that anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin. I'd also like to note for the record that in accordance with recently passed legislation, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I will also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on today's agenda by submitting their written comments by 4:30 p.m. yesterday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of today's agenda items. If so, I would ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such item. Hearing no conflicts for the foregoing having been noted for the record, I will now ask Robin Stout, President of the Corporation, to provide the President's report. I will note for the record that this item is being presented for your information only, and no vote will be required. Robin, before you begin, let me just add a personal note saying that Alan toured me the space right after Labor Day, and you guys did a fabulous job, so congratulations. Now, please begin.
Thank you, Henry. It's Robin. I really appreciate that. And as I've said to all the directors all along, if you haven't been inside the new space, please let me know. We'd love to give you a tour. Let me start by saying that several exciting things have happened since our last meeting in June. Of course, the most important of all is that the expansion is now complete. It is fully permitted for occupancy, and it has been hosting events, including Comic-Con at the beginning of this month. DASNY issued the permit for the expansion public occupancy at the end of July. That triggered CCDC to certify that Lindley Turner had in fact achieved what's called occupancy readiness under the lease, an important milestone under the lease. And that in turn allowed CCDC to turn over possession of the expansion to CCOC for operation. That turnover occurred as of August the 3rd of this year. So CCDC has obviously been learning how to use the expansion. They were doing that. They were in training to understand the expansion even before August 3rd and since August 3rd. And of course, as I say, CCOC has now been hosting events inside of the expansion. So that's been terrific for everybody. Very, very exciting. Up next, in case you thought I was done, we're not done. Up next are two important milestones. The first of those important milestones, as you'll hear a little bit more when I present today's action items, our teams are working to conclude the upgrade of the fire alarm system within existing Javits. You might recall that the existing fire alarm system within Javits is perfectly legal, perfectly safe, and fully permitted, but it's permitted to an older fire code. And it is the process of upgrading it to the new current fire code is virtually done, and that work is awaiting sign-off by the New York City Fire Department. So that's one thing that our teams have been working on. And the second thing our teams have been working on is the application to merge the new expansion with the existing facility into one combined campus. And that will allow us to take down a wall which currently separates the expansion from the existing facility. So that's up next. As I say, we have a fully permitted and beautiful new expansion which is hosting events. We have obviously the existing facility continues to host events. We even have events which are using both pieces, both the expansion and the existing facility. And our next big milestone is going to be to take down the wall between the two. But in the interim, as I say, both sides both the existing facility and the new expansion are fully operational, and they're both hosting events. The director should also know that we CCDC have entered into closeout settlement discussions with Lindley Turner, and those closeout discussions will include any pandemic claims. You will recall that at the height of the pandemic last spring of 2020, the project site was closed down for 2 months, April and May of 2020. We restarted in June to our conclusion this year. So there are some claims on the table which myself with the project management team have been working now for probably 6 weeks or maybe more with the Lindley Turner team in terms of trying to close out final items. And I will keep the directors posted on that. Turning briefly away from the expansion, the directors will recall that back in June, you authorized a closeout with the transformer building with Tishman Construction at the transformer electrical project. CCDC did enter into that closeout agreement. And we've set it so that has now been settled. As I believe I said in June, it's within the budget that was expected for the transformer building. So that's terrific, and we've had no troubles with the transformer building serving as the electrical battery, both for existing Javits and for the new expansion. And the last thing I want to bring to the director's attention today is to remind you that CCDC continues to own 2 adjacent properties near Javits, one directly across the street from the Crystal Palace, which we call Site K, and the second, the full city block directly south of existing Javits of the administrative offices between 34 and 33. A request for proposals for the development of Site K went out And we have received we received 6 different proposals, all of them quite interesting, but quite varied. We are analyzing those both in terms of program and in terms of financing. We interviewed all 6 respondents at separate interviews last week. And I think we have some good, exciting things to think about for the potential development of Site K. We have not yet RFP'd the former truck marshaling building, although of course, the former truck marshaling yard, although of course, because we have the new truck marshaling facility up at 40th Street, the current truck marshaling yard between 33 and 34 has now become available. There's no timetable for that RFP yet, but I would expect that it will be sooner rather than later. So I will also keep the directors posted on that. But for those things that I mentioned, obviously the project is in wind down mode. That will be reflected in the 3 action items that I'm bringing to the board. We are trying to close out contracts as promptly as possible and coming to a conclusion of this project. So with that, I will stop and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you for your report, Robin. Continuing with the agenda, Robin will now request authorization to adopt a pre-qualified legal counsel list for use by the corporation. Robin? Robin?
Robin, you may be on mute.
You want to get him back on, please, Evie?
Yes, yes. Thanks, everyone. Hold on one second. Robin's going to be dialing back in.
Yes, I pressed the wrong button. My apologies.
Thanks.
I think I'll keep myself unmuted from here on out. My apologies, excuse me. The first item is just a housekeeping item, which is the directors over the years have seen items like this before. CCDC is required to adopt a pre-qual list of potential counsel. ESD, our parent, does this list periodically. ESD did this list most recently in 2017, and it has extended the pre-qual list from 2017 for another year to 2022. And so the request is that the directors simply adopt essentially the ESD action on the pre-qualified counsel list and extend the current list until March 31 of 2022 as set forth in your materials. Thank you.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Also move. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Robin, please continue. You're going to present an item relating to allocations under the New York Convention Center Renovation Funding Agreement.
Yes, thank you, Henry. The directors will recall that over the years, CCDC has funded certain capital improvement projects for CCOC to perform. This is largely, we entered into a funding agreement back in 2015. Many of the items that were covered were what I think of as day 2 items at the end of the renovation, which ended in 2015. There were some work still yet to have been accomplished, and so at that point, CCDC and CCOC entered into an agreement by which CCDC would fund OC's work in terms of making certain capital improvements within the existing facility. And over the years, including relatively recently, we have continued to allocate money and to reallocate money as priorities and the projects finish. And so today's is no different. It does tie into what I discussed during my president's report, which is recall that one of the important next steps that we're taking is to conclude an upgrade of the existing fire alarm system inside of existing Javits, and therefore what we are asking the directors to approve with this second set of materials is a series of allocations or reallocations of money from either new money or from prior projects, all of which would go to make sure that we have enough money to finish that upgrade of the existing system and all of its required inspections. So the directors are being asked to reallocate, pursuant to the materials that are in front of you, the directors are being requested to reallocate $1.23 million from two prior projects, an additional $195,000, which was money which had been previously authorized but not yet committed to any project, and then finally an additional $1 million from bond proceeds, and that would be a total of $2.218 million, which I am asking for director authorization to allocate to the fire systems upgrade at existing Javits. Thank you.
I'll move. Any comments? I should note we had no comments from the public on any of these matters. Do we have a second?
I seconded it. It's Lee.
Thanks, Lee. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. And now Robin will present today's final agenda item, a request for authorization for the corporation to enter into a legal services contract with Love and Long LLP. Robin?
Yes, thank you, Henry. And just before I do that, I would like to close out the second item. Thank you for the director authorization. But I want to remind the directors that these kinds of capital improvement allocations will likely continue. Just as with the renovation, there were certain projects that didn't quite get done as part of the renovation. There will be a handful of what Alan and I have been calling day two items, work, which is probably not within the scope of the expansion, but nonetheless will be a priority for OC, mostly within the existing facility. And so from time to time over the next period of time, directors should expect to see that we will continue to do capital allocations at CCDC. We'll continue to do capital allocations to CCOC for capital improvements at the Javits Center. So just a reminder for you to look forward to in the future. This last item is in connection with the dispositions, which I also discussed briefly in my president's report, both Site K and the truck marshaling facility. We are beginning to hire consultants to assist us in the process of disposing of those properties and preparing them for development. And so the directors in this third item are being asked to authorize the corporation to enter into a contract for legal services in connection with the disposition of Site K with a law firm called Love and Long. This contract amount would not be for more than $250,000. Love and Long is a minority business enterprise, which is part of the pre-qual list, which the directors just authorized an extension of in the first item. And we expect them to assist us in the Site K disposition in the coming months. So with that, I would ask the directors to authorize the retention of Love and Long for a maximum amount of $250,000. Thank you.
Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
This is Michael. I'll move it. Michael Carey.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I'll second it. Lee, you may second it. Ed, all in favor?
I'll second it.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. And as I noted earlier, we have no comments from the public with regard to this item. So with that, we want to thank everybody for your participation in today's meeting. And if there's no further business, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Michael Carey.
Michael, thank you. And thank you again, Robin, for your hard work with respect to getting the building done.
Thank you. And thank you,
Congratulations. Well done, Robin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And Debbie.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Deb, are we done?
Yep. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Bye-bye.